It was the second week of October when I got the job. I'd been laid off from the diner in town after the owner's wife caught him staring at me for just a little too long. I didn't blame her. Life was tough, and jealousy made people do crazy things. But that left me jobless, with a rent due and an old Chevy that needed gas to even think about starting. That's when I saw the handwritten note on the community board outside the post office. Night receptionist needed, Home Depot, Rural Route 16, must be punctual, must be respectful, must follow all listed rules, $22, call between 6 to 7 p.m. only. It seemed weird. Who hires a receptionist for a hardware store in the middle of nowhere, at night? Still, the pay was too good to ignore. I called that evening. A man with a gravelly voice answered. He sounded like he was holding back a cough. "You're calling about the job?" "Yes, sir. I saw the posting." "You drive?" "Yes." "You scare easy?" I hesitated. "No." There was a pause, then a short chuckle that didn't sound amused. "Be here at 9 p.m. sharp. Bring ID. Don't be late. If you're late, don't come at all." That was it. No paperwork, no interview, just an address and a warning. I arrived that night. The Home Depot was on a stretch of road surrounded by marsh and broken trees. It didn't even look open, just one flickering light above the sliding glass doors. No cars in the lot, no customers. Just a crow sitting on the roof like it owned the place. I parked and walked up. The doors slid open with a slow hiss, and I stepped inside. A man was waiting for me at the customer service counter. Tall, pale, and bone-thin with deep hollows under his eyes. He wore an orange apron like everyone else working retail, but his had something stitched into it I couldn't quite read. It looked like a name tag, but older, faded, as if it had been there decades. "You're the new girl," he said. Not a question, a statement. "Yes, sir." He didn't smile, just nodded, turned, and motioned for me to follow. We walked down the aisles. It was quiet. Too quiet. Even the usual hum of lights felt off. He stopped near the break room door and pointed to a black binder sitting on a table. "Those are the rules," he said. "Read them, memorize them, obey them. You got 5 minutes." He walked off. I opened the binder. The first page read, "Welcome to Home Depot, Night Shift Receptionist Protocols." Below that, a list of rules. 1. Always arrive before 9 p.m. If you arrive at 9:01, turn around and drive home. Do not re-enter the building for any reason. 2. The front doors will lock automatically at 9:05 p.m. Do not try to leave until your shift ends at 6 a.m. 3. Between 10 p.m. and 12 a.m., customers may enter. Do not question their appearance. Do not make eye contact. Smile, ring them up, and wish them a good night. If a customer asks where aisle 99 is, tell them it's being restocked. Do not follow them. 5. At 1:11 a.m., you may hear whistling near the lumber section. Do not investigate. 6. If you hear knocking at the back door after 3 a.m., ignore it, even if it sounds like a coworker or child. 7. Do not, under any circumstances, go down aisle 14 between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. 8. If the intercom hisses or turns on by itself, cover your ears. Do not listen. 9. If the power goes out, hide under the front counter and do not move until the lights return. 10. When your shift ends at 6 a.m., walk calmly out the front doors. Do not run. Do not look back. My hands trembled. This had to be a joke, some messed up initiation thing to scare newbies. Right? The pale man returned holding a ring of keys. "You memorized them?" I nodded, though I wasn't sure I had. "Good," he said. "You'll be here 5 nights a week. No call-ins, no visitors. Stick to the rules and you'll be just fine." And with that, he handed me the keys and walked away. I didn't even know his name. The first hour was boring. I sat behind the customer service counter with a black and white monitor showing feeds from security cameras. There were 8 of them, most showing empty aisles and back rooms. At 10:03 p.m., the front doors opened. A man walked in, tall, maybe 6'5", wearing an old-timey 3-piece suit and a hat that shadowed his face. He carried a shopping cart but didn't touch the handle, just let it roll beside him like it was trained to follow. He didn't speak as he passed me, didn't even glance. I forced a smile. "Welcome to Home Depot." The man walked toward the plumbing section and disappeared between the aisles. At 10:47 p.m., a woman entered. Her skin was gray, her eyes pure white, Her dress looked like it came from the 1800s, and she left wet footprints wherever she walked. I told myself it was a costume. It had to be. She came up to the counter and placed a single item down, a pack of light bulbs. "Will these do?" she asked, her voice like wind through dead leaves. I swallowed hard. "Yes, ma'am." She nodded slowly. "Very well." I rang her up. The register beeped like normal, though I didn't type a thing. "Have a good night," I said. She smiled. Her teeth were small and too many. She walked away. At 1:11 a.m., just like the rule said, I heard the whistling. It was faint at first, like someone whistling a tune in reverse. The sound drifted from the lumber section and echoed through the building. I stayed put. My fingers gripped the counter like it was the only solid thing left in the world. The cameras showed nothing. At 2:36 a.m., the temperature dropped. The thermostat still read 72, but I could see my breath. One of the lights in aisle 14 flickered. A shadow passed by the end of it, too tall, too thin. I remembered the rule: do not go down aisle 14. I stared at the monitor for what felt like hours, refusing to blink. Then, at 3:12 a.m., came the knocking. It started soft. 1, 2, 3 knocks at the back door. Then again. Then louder, like fists pounding wood. Then came a voice. "Hey, hey, it's Tommy from day shift. I forgot my wallet. Come on, open up." I didn't know any Tommy. "Come on," the voice whined. "It's freezing out here." Then another voice joined him, a little girl. "Mister, can you let us in, please?" I'm lost. They took turns, knocking, pleading, crying. I sat behind the counter, knees pulled to my chest, ears covered, whispering the rules to myself like a prayer. At 4:57 a.m., the power went out. Every light vanished. The screens went black. The silence swallowed everything. I dove under the counter and didn't breathe. Somewhere in the dark, the intercom clicked. Then came static. Then a voice, soft and wet, like it had no lips to shape the words. "Receptionist, receptionist, I see you." I pressed my palms to my ears so hard it hurt. For the next hour, I didn't move, not even to breathe deep. At 6 a.m. sharp, the lights flickered on. The warmth returned. The register beeped once. The front doors slid open. I stood, legs numb and shaking. I walked calmly to the doors. I didn't run. I didn't look back. I got in my car and drove away as fast as I could without speeding. That was my first night, and I had to be back again tonight. I spent most of the next day sitting on my couch, watching the clock. Every time I blinked, I saw those white eyes. Every time the fridge hummed or the wind rattled a window, I flinched. I kept telling myself it was a prank, an elaborate hazing for new employees. But deep down, something told me this wasn't a joke. The way the woman's footprints soaked through the tiles, the way the register rang without me pressing a single button, the whispers on the intercom, the knocking. It was all too real. At 8 p.m., I almost didn't go back, but rent was due in 5 days, and that $22 an hour looked a lot like survival. By 8:45 p.m., I was pulling into the same cracked parking lot. The crow was gone this time, but something worse had replaced it, a dead possum lying belly up on the concrete right in front of the entrance. Its eyes had been plucked out. The tongue was missing too, like something wanted to send a message. I stepped over it. The door slid open at my approach. That same cold hiss followed. I walked in. The tall man was waiting again, arms folded across his chest like he hadn't moved since last night. His apron still had that faded tag. This time I was close enough to make out what it said. It didn't say a name, just one word: caretaker. "You came back," he said. "I need the job." He nodded once, slowly, like that was the only acceptable answer. "Nothing's changed. You know the rules. Break them, and I won't be able to help you. No one will." I didn't ask questions, just nodded and made my way to the counter. The first hour was quiet again, same empty security monitors, same hum from the lights above. At exactly 10:04 p.m., the front doors opened. This time, 2 figures came in. One was a man in overalls with a face like melted wax. His eyes were dark slits, and his mouth hung open wider than any mouth should. The other was a little boy holding a severed length of garden hose like it was a teddy bear. They didn't speak, just wandered the aisles. I watched the cameras as they moved through plumbing, then power tools. At 10:32 p.m., the man stared up at one of the ceiling cameras, stared right into it. The feed cut to static. I looked up from the monitor, and he was standing in front of the counter. I didn't hear him approach, Didn't hear his footsteps. His face was less like wax now and more like rotting meat. He placed a single item on the counter, a hatchet, still wet. I rang it up, even though I never touched the screen. He took the receipt and walked out. The boy followed, giggling softly. The doors shut behind them. At 11:58 p.m., something moved across aisle 7, a flash of red. I checked the camera. Nothing. The red streak appeared again, closer this time. Then again, right near the end of my counter. It was a balloon, a single red helium balloon, floating low, bobbing side to side. There was no wind. I stayed still. The balloon bumped into the edge of the counter, then hovered in place, almost as if waiting. I didn't touch it. I didn't move. At midnight, it popped, loud and sharp like a gunshot. I ducked. Nothing was left. No rubber scraps, no string, just silence. At 12:47 a.m., I heard footsteps on the roof, slow, measured, like someone was pacing directly above me. The lights flickered once, then twice, then held steady. The intercom crackled again, but this time I was ready. I slapped my hands over my ears and hummed until it stopped. At 1:11 a.m. came the whistling. Same haunting tune as last night, this time closer. I watched the lumber aisle on the monitors. Still empty. The whistling grew louder, then stopped. A note slid across the floor beneath the break room door. I stared at it for a full minute before standing. It was just a piece of notebook paper, folded once. No footprints, no hand to deliver it, just there. I picked it up with a pen and unfolded it. "You're being watched. Stop looking at the cameras." I dropped it and backed away. The monitors fuzzed over, static crackling across all 8 screens. Then slowly, one by one, each camera feed returned, except aisle 14. That one remained black. At 2:19 a.m., I heard whispering. It came from behind the paint section, low and desperate. I couldn't make out the words. It sounded like more than one voice, maybe a dozen, all talking at once, layered over each other. I remembered the rule: don't go down aisle 14 between 2 and 4 a.m. I stayed at my post. The voices grew louder, like they were arguing, then screaming, then crying. At 2:41 a.m., it stopped. Silence returned until 3:05 a.m. The back door rattled, a sharp knock. Then again. "Please," came a woman's voice. "Please let me in. I'm hurt." I didn't move, she sobbed. Then something scraped against the door. Claws or maybe fingernails. Then silence. I waited. Then came the voice that chilled me to my core. "Open the door, Abby." My name. It said my name. I didn't respond. "You know me," it said, soft and pleading. "It's Mom. Let me in, baby. I'm cold out here." My mother had died 5 years ago in a car accident. Whoever or whatever that was, it wasn't her. I whispered the rules again and again until the voice faded. At 4 a.m., the intercom turned on again. This time, it played music. A warped, slow version of the Home Depot theme, but twisted. Off-key, like it was being played backwards. I shoved earplugs in my ears and focused on the clock. The power flickered at 4:55 a.m., but didn't go out. The lights turned green for exactly 3 seconds, then back to white. I don't know what that meant. I didn't want to know. At 6 a.m., the front doors slid open again. I walked calmly, no sudden movements. I didn't even blink. I stepped outside into the morning air, into the fog that had crept low over the parking lot. I turned around to look through the glass doors, just once. The caretaker was there, standing in the exact spot I had just left, smiling. His apron now had something red smeared across it. He raised one hand and waved. I got into my car, locked the doors, and drove. This time I cried. And still, I knew I'd be back the next night. I had no choice. I didn't sleep that day. I tried. I closed the blinds, wrapped myself in every blanket I owned, and curled into a ball. But my mind wouldn't shut off. Every creak in the apartment sounded like a knock. Every hum of the fridge was the intercom starting up again. At one point, I swore I saw a red balloon float past my window. But when I got up to look, it was gone. By 7 p.m., I was already dressed and pacing the living room. I should have walked away from this job. Normal people don't survive this kind of thing. But I wasn't normal anymore. I had rent, no backup plan, and worse, curiosity. I wanted to know what was happening in that store, what was behind those rules, and who the hell the caretaker really was. I drove slower that night, half hoping I'd break down, be late, and have a reason to never go back. But the Chevy rumbled along like it wanted me there too. The parking lot was empty again. No crow, no possum, no signs of life. I stepped inside at exactly 8:59 p.m. This time, the caretaker was nowhere to be seen, just the echo of the doors hissing shut behind me. I walked to the front counter. The binder was there, open to a new page I hadn't seen before. A fresh set of scribbled warnings in a darker ink. If you see a man in an orange apron with no face, do not acknowledge him. He is not one of us. Do not answer the phone after 2:30 a.m., no matter who it says is calling. If you receive a return item with blood on it, accept it silently and place it in locker 7. If someone asks for the other manager, pretend you've never heard that name. The mannequins from Seasonal will not always stay where they belong. Ignore them. My heart dropped. They were updating the rules, which meant the store was changing. At 10:13 p.m., the front doors opened. A customer stepped in carrying a box fan backwards, literally walking in reverse, face turned toward the parking lot, dragging the fan behind them. I tried not to stare. Evening, I offered, keeping my voice steady. The person, man maybe, just kept walking backward down the aisles until he disappeared. The cameras blinked, fuzzed, then returned. He was gone. At 11:21 p.m., I heard shuffling near aisle 5. When I checked the monitor, one of the seasonal mannequins had moved. It was standing near the paint samples facing the wall. I distinctly remembered seeing all of them locked in the display cage before my shift began. By 11:40 p.m., there were 2 mannequins. At 12:05 a.m., 3. I never saw them move. They just appeared closer each time I blinked. At 12:30 a.m., I turned off that camera feed and refused to look at it again. I was filing receipts when the lights flickered again. Then the front doors opened without warning, but nobody came in. The air changed, like someone was holding their breath inside the building. The intercom let out a soft, distorted giggle. The doors stayed open. Wind blew in, the kind that carries whispers. Then came the smell, rotting meat and gasoline. I stayed behind the counter, heart pounding, resisting the urge to scream. Eventually, after what felt like forever, the doors hissed shut on their own, and the smell faded. At 1:11 a.m., the whistling started again. This time it was right behind me. I spun around. Nothing. The air felt heavy, like something unseen had just brushed past me. I ducked beneath the counter, whispering the rules like a chant. That's when I heard it. A phone ringing. A loud, old-fashioned landline ring echoing through the store. Rule number 2 from the new page. Do not answer the phone after 2:30 a.m. I checked the clock. 2:31 a.m. The ringing didn't come from the office. It came from the far end of aisle 14. I curled up tighter beneath the desk, trying to shut it out. The ringing stopped, then started again, this time closer. I checked the monitors. All the feeds were black except for one, a live view of the front counter. Of me. I was on the screen, huddled beneath the desk. And behind me, something moved. Something tall and hunched like a man made of shadows. But when I turned around, there was nothing there. At 3 a.m., the knocking returned, this time from multiple doors. Front, back, break room, storage cage, soft at first, then louder. And then came the voices. You're not real. She's dreaming. Let me in, Abby. How do you know this isn't your home now? Each word crawled through the building like insects under the walls. I shoved my fingers in my ears and focused on the fluorescent lights above me. They flickered once, then pulsed red for one brief second, and then everything stopped. The lights returned to white. Silence fell. I looked up. A woman was standing at the counter, pale, wet, barefoot. She placed a single item on the counter, a hammer with a cracked wooden handle. Her eyes were gone, sockets empty and black. Still, somehow she stared directly at me. Is he here? She asked. My mouth went dry. Who? Her cracked lips curled into a grin. The other manager. I remembered the rule. I don't know who that is, I said softly. She leaned forward, her face inches from mine. You will. Then she walked away, dragging the hammer along the tile behind her, leaving a trail of rust-red water. At 5:58 a.m., the lights dimmed briefly, and for the first time in 3 nights, I saw the caretaker again. He was standing just past the tool section, hands folded in front of him, watching, waiting. I walked to the doors as they hissed open at exactly 6 a.m. As I stepped into the morning light, I turned to look back, just once. The mannequins were at the glass now, all 6 of them, standing in a perfect row, facing out, watching me leave. I got into my car, turned the key, and whispered to myself, I can't do this again. But deep down, I already knew I would, because it wasn't just a job anymore. It was something else, something I was now a part of, something that wasn't going to let me go. The fourth night started with dread, not panic, not fear, just a deep hollow dread that sat in my chest like a stone. Every logical part of my brain begged me to stay home, to lie, to run, to disappear. But I knew the truth now. It wasn't just about showing up. It was about being chosen. I didn't choose this job. It chose me. The store wasn't normal. It wasn't just haunted. It was alive. And each night, it showed me a little more of what it was hiding. I arrived at 8:55 p.m. The parking lot was still empty, except for a strange, dark fluid pooled beneath one of the lamps. It shimmered like oil, but the smell, sharp and metallic, was all wrong. The front doors opened before I got close, like they sensed me. I stepped inside. No greeting from the caretaker this time. No footsteps, just silence. The lights were dimmer than usual, and a low hum buzzed in the air, deeper than the fluorescent flicker I'd gotten used to. It almost felt like a growl. On the counter was a new note in the binder, scrawled in the same frantic handwriting as the last editions. The other manager has become aware of your presence. You may begin to notice gaps in time. Do not attempt to correct them. If you find yourself outside the building before 6 a.m., you were never meant to leave. I sat down behind the desk and pulled up the monitors. Aisle 14 was still dark. The mannequins weren't in seasonal anymore. I checked twice. The clock read 9:04 p.m. I blinked. It was 9:21 p.m. I hadn't moved, hadn't even blinked, I thought, but 20 minutes had vanished. That's when I knew the new rule was real. Gaps in time. Something had tested me, or rewound me, or maybe pulled me out of sync for a moment. I'd passed, or failed. I wasn't sure. At 10 p.m. sharp, the front doors opened. 4 customers entered together. They walked in a perfectly synchronized line. 4 men, all wearing identical brown suits, carrying black briefcases. They didn't blink. Their skin looked waxy, like their faces were stretched too tight over something else. They didn't speak to me. Just walked to the aisle marked Storage Solutions. When I checked the monitor, the feed was static. I didn't look back toward that aisle again. At 10:36 p.m., a child wandered in. A little girl, maybe 7, with tangled black hair and a stuffed rabbit clutched in one hand. She walked right up to the counter and stared at me. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi there," I said gently, forcing a smile. "My mommy's looking for me," she said. "She got lost in the walls." I felt my stomach twist. "Do you need help?" I asked. She nodded. "Can I sit with you until she finds me?" I knew what the rules said. Never trust a voice that sounds like a child. But this one, she was different. I nodded. She climbed onto the stool beside me and sat perfectly still. At 11 p.m., the store phone rang. Not the creepy echo from Light, the real desk phone. I hesitated, then picked it up. "Home Depot. This is Abby," I said. Static, then a voice, low and distorted. "You shouldn't have let her in." Click. I looked at the girl. She was gone. The stool was empty, still warm to the touch. The cameras glitched. On the seasonal monitor, I saw her again, standing with the mannequins, holding hands with them, smiling. At 11:52 p.m., a man burst through the front doors, screaming. Blood soaked his shirt and his eyes were wild. He ran to the counter, grabbing at me. "You have to help me," he cried. "They're following me. They're inside the drywall. His body jerked once, then again. He stopped mid-sentence, went stiff and collapsed backward, dead. I screamed. I couldn't help it. Then I blinked, and he was gone. No blood, no body, just silence again. The clock read 12:01 a.m. I wrote it down in the binder, my own edition. If someone dies in front of you, wait 30 seconds. They may not stay dead. At 1:11 a.m., the whistling began again, but this time I recognized the tune. It was the melody my mother used to hum while brushing my hair as a child. I closed my eyes and whispered the rules. I wasn't going to fall for it. The whistling stopped. Then someone placed an item on the counter. I opened my eyes. It was the hatchet again. The same one from night 2. Same crack in the handle. Same dark stains along the blade. But no one entered. The doors never opened. At 2 a.m., the lights went out. No flicker, just instant darkness. I ducked beneath the counter, hands over my ears, but there was no intercom this time. Only breathing, ragged, wet, just a few feet from me. Then something brushed my hair. I stayed still. Minutes passed. Then the lights came back on. When I crawled out, something new was waiting on the counter. A name tag. Orange, cracked, covered in dust, my name on it. But not just Abby, assistant manager Abby. I left it on the desk and backed away. The store was promoting me? At 3 a.m., the knocking returned. But not at the doors. It came from beneath the floor. A slow, like rhythmic pounding. Boom, 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 like fists on concrete. Like something buried deep was trying to dig its way out. I felt it under my feet in the bones of the building. It lasted for 7 minutes. Then silence. At 4:04 a.m., a woman came in wearing a yellow dress soaked in mud. She had no shoes, no pupils, and no shadow. She placed a mirror on the counter. I stared into it and saw the caretaker behind me. I spun around, no one there. I looked again. This time, he was behind the woman, smiling. I didn't breathe. She picked up the mirror and walked away without a word. The camera feeds shut off again, one by one. At 5:50 a.m., the front doors began to rattle. Not open, rattle, like they were struggling against something outside. I walked toward them, slowly shaking. The sky outside was pitch black, no dawn, no stars, and in the glass I saw my reflection staring back at me. Only, it wasn't mimicking me anymore. It was smiling when I wasn't. Then at 6 a.m., everything reset. The lights turned bright. The sky outside shifted instantly from black to golden gray. The reflection vanished, and the doors opened with their usual hiss. I ran this time. I didn't look back. I didn't wait for the mannequins. I drove home in silence, the name tag still in my jacket pocket. Tomorrow would be the 5th night, and something told me I wasn't a receptionist anymore. I spent the 5th day in a daze, unable to think straight. The name tag sat on my coffee table, taunting me. Assistant manager Abby. It wasn't possible. No one offered me a promotion. No one said anything. And yet the tag looked old, like it had been worn for years. But that wasn't the worst part. When I checked my phone that afternoon, my job title on the digital payroll app had already changed. Assistant night manager. No notification, no paperwork. Just a quiet shift in reality, like the store had decided for me. And it terrified me more than anything else. By 8:45 p.m., I was driving back toward the store with shaking hands and a growing certainty that I wasn't coming back out the same, if at all. The parking lot was foggy this time, thicker than I'd ever seen it. It clung to the windows and slithered beneath the car like it wanted in. The doors were already open. I stepped through them and the fog didn't follow. It stopped at the threshold like there was an invisible barrier. The store greeted me with silence. No caretaker. No flickering lights. Just the low drone of something mechanical behind the walls, like giant gears turning deep beneath the foundation. I walked to the counter. The binder was gone. In its place was a black envelope. Inside, a single sheet of paper, typed in all caps. Welcome to management. You now have access to the back rooms. The rules still apply, but they will change. I stood there frozen, trying to breathe. At 9:03 p.m., the phone rang again. The desk phone. Real, sharp, loud. I didn't answer. It rang 12 times, then stopped. And then the lights dimmed, not in the store but on the monitors. One by one, each feed displayed a word. Promotions. Price. Then they all cut to black. At 10 p.m., the front doors opened, and the mannequins walked in. They moved stiffly, jerky like broken animatronics, but they walked, all 6 of them, each holding an item, a hammer, a saw, a crowbar, a length of rope, a mirror, and a roll of duct tape. They marched past me and disappeared down the aisles. I didn't try to follow. At 10:26 p.m., the caretaker returned. He walked out from the break room like nothing had changed, his face calm but pale. You've been moved up, he said simply, like it was a fact, not a threat. I didn't ask for this. He smiled slightly. No one does. But now you have access. Access to what? He turned and pointed down aisle 14, the one we were never supposed to go down. Tonight it's open, he said. Go at your own risk. But know this, once you've seen what's beneath, you can't unsee it, and the store will never let you leave. Then he walked away. At 11 p.m., the air shifted. The building groaned like it was alive and restless. The intercom hissed once, then said, all assistant managers report to aisle 14. My blood went cold. I stood at the entrance to the aisle, staring into it. It looked longer than usual, impossible long. I could see shelves stretching out endlessly, with shadows slithering between toolboxes and plywood stacks. The lights above it buzzed with a strange reddish tint. I stepped in. The temperature dropped 10 degrees instantly. Behind me, the aisle sealed off. The store folded in on itself, trapping me inside. My footsteps echoed weirdly, as if the walls were too close and too far at the same time. As I moved deeper, I saw signs on the shelves that didn't belong in any hardware store. Managerial integrity, $5.99 per soul. Reality anchors, aisle 99. Time displacement kits, 30% off returns. I passed a broken mirror with a tag that read past reflections, handle with caution. And then far ahead, I saw a door. Not a normal one. It looked ancient, carved from dark wood with metal bolts sealing its edges. A plaque above it read, "The Other Manager's Office." I should have turned around. Instead, I knocked. Once, twice. The door opened on its own. Inside was darkness and something breathing. I stepped in. The air felt like molasses, heavy, full of memories I didn't own. The walls were covered in old time cards, stapled and nailed and scratched over. At the desk sat something, inhuman. Its face shifted like oil on water, eyes where they didn't belong, a mouth full of ink. Its name tag read Store Manager, Class X, Obsolete. "Welcome, Abby," it gurgled. I froze. "I've been watching you," it said. "You follow rules. You listen, but you're still human. That makes you dangerous." "I don't want this," I whispered. It tilted its head. "Then why did you knock?" I couldn't answer. "You've been promoted," it said again. "There is no demotion." It extended a long ink-black hand. On its palm rested a key, rusty, old, and humming with quiet whispers. "For the final shift," it said. "Take it and you'll understand." I backed away, but the door had vanished. I was trapped. Suddenly, the room began to collapse inward, walls folding like paper, reality bending, time looping. And then I was outside the door again, standing in aisle 14. Key in hand, the intercom spoke once more. "Thank you for entering the restricted zone. Promotion accepted." I ran back to the counter. The store didn't stop me. At 5:59 a.m., the front doors opened. I didn't wait for the cue. I walked out into the fog. The moment I crossed the threshold, I vomited. Black liquid. The same that had pooled beneath the lamp in the parking lot. The key was still in my hand. And on my chest, the name tag had changed again. Store Manager. I didn't drive home after the 5th shift. I couldn't. The moment I stepped outside the store and saw my new name tag, Store Manager Abby, something inside me fractured. I sat in my car until sunrise, gripping the rusted key I'd been given, listening to the world hum in frequencies I never noticed before. Birdsong sounded wrong. The wind felt coated. Everything had changed. The store had changed me. I didn't feel tired. I didn't feel hungry. I didn't even feel human anymore. When 7 p.m. came, I drove back. Not because I was scared, not because I had to, but because I needed to know why. The parking lot was empty again. The fog had returned, but this time it parted for me. The doors didn't open on their own tonight. I unlocked them with the rusted key. The moment I stepped in, everything shifted. The fluorescent lights were gone, replaced with an amber glow, like the store had been lit with old oil lamps. The aisles were longer, the ceiling higher. Every inch of Home Depot had become older, worn, forgotten. On the front counter, there was no binder, just a new sign. "Welcome, Store Manager Abby." Underneath, a note in the same typing as before. "Tonight is the final shift. You must complete the transition. You will be tested. You will be tempted. You will be watched. Failure means replacement. Success means permanence." I walked to the monitors. There were no security feeds anymore, just a single looping video of myself standing behind the counter, blinking out of sync with the real me. I unplugged the monitor. It kept playing. At 9:15 p.m., the mannequins returned. Only this time, they weren't empty. Each wore a face, familiar ones. The little girl from night 3, the gray-skinned woman with the light bulbs, the tall man with the waxy smile. They all stared at me from behind plastic eyes, twitching slightly as they passed the counter. They didn't go to the aisles. They formed a circle in the center of the store, waiting. At 10:04 p.m., the intercom clicked on. "All personnel prepare for the final inventory." The lights dimmed. The temperature dropped. Then something new happened. The caretaker walked out from aisle 14, but he looked different, tired, pale. His apron was torn, his name tag half melted. "I'm sorry." he said quietly. For what? I asked. For bringing you here. He walked to the counter and placed his keys beside mine. I wasn't always the caretaker, he said. I was once where you are now, just a kid needing work. I followed the rules. I survived. But I stayed too long. His eyes were hollow now. I should have let the store replace me. Instead, I became part of it. I shook my head. What are you saying? He looked past me toward the circle of mannequins. They're waiting for the transition. They want to see if you'll become like me or take my place properly. I took a step back. No, I don't want this. I never wanted this. He nodded solemnly. That's why you might survive. At 11 p.m., the store began to shake. The walls rippled like water. The floor cracked. Shelves collapsed inward and the ceiling twisted into a spiral of shadows and fluorescent light. The mannequins turned in unison. They spoke in one voice. Show us your choice. The caretaker handed me the key. There are 2 locks, he said. One on the office door, one beneath the front desk. Which one do I use? He didn't answer. The spiral above grew tighter. The lights buzzed louder. The mannequins began to chant. Choose, choose, choose. I ran. I didn't know where I was going, just that I had to move. I passed aisle 14. It wasn't there anymore. In its place was a corridor of mirrors. Every reflection was me, but older, twisted, rotting, replaced. At the end of the corridor, a door. It pulsed with light. I raised the key and unlocked it. Inside was the real office, or maybe the original. Dust-covered paperwork, old photos of past employees, and a massive black leather chair facing away from me. As I stepped closer, the chair turned. Empty. A voice filled the room. You've made your choice. You've opened the right door. The walls began to crack. The mannequins screamed from across the store, and the caretaker appeared in the doorway, fading like smoke. You broke the loop, he said. Thank you. And then he was gone. The store collapsed inward, aisles folding like origami, shelves disappearing into the floor, lighting flickering in and out. I stood alone in the office. Then the intercom clicked one last time. Welcome, store manager Abby. The night shift is yours now. I didn't leave that morning. I didn't need to. Because when the sun rose, there were no front doors anymore, no parking lot, no road, no sky, only shelves, forever stretching. And at the front counter, the black binder returned. Fresh pages, fresh rules. My name was on the cover now. They say a new girl answered a job posting last week. Same ad, same handwritten flyer. She called. She was told to arrive at 9 p.m. sharp, and when she walked through the doors for the first time, someone was waiting for her. A woman in an orange apron, smiling. Her name tag read, Store Manager Abby, and the store began its cycle again, just like it always does, just like it always will.